Hello everyone and welcome back to another Sensei series. Today I'm changing it up a little bit. I reached out to you guys via Instagram asking what topics you want me to cover in this video. I'd like to introduce an interactive element into this series now and then. I feel like I've already covered a lot of the topics that I want to, and it's always great to get your input on what you want to learn. Before we get into it though, a quick word from today's sponsor Skillshare, an online learning community for creators with over 25,000 classes in countless topics ranging from learning how to mix music to making chocolate from the bean up. I recently finished a course over there on Adobe Illustrator, which is a program that I use regularly to create my video thumbnails. Historically, I found that software to be extremely counterintuitive, and it induced a rage in me that few other things could. However, thanks to this course, I no longer find myself yelling things like, "This is the worst program in the world, I hate it," at my computer screen. Premium membership gives you unlimited access. An annual subscription is very affordable, costing less than $10 a month. If you want to check it out, there is a link for a 2-month free trial down in the description. Anyways, let's do this. The first topic for today comes from Sensitive Jan, who asks how to play the wrong notes the right way. I believe the quote is something like, "There are no wrong notes in jazz, just notes in the wrong place," and it's commonly attributed to Miles Davis. But even though he's talking about one musical genre, this concept applies across the board, but be warned, it's a bit of an advanced topic. So the idea is, when you're soloing, you can play any note over any chord, and there's a way to make it sound good. Certain notes are going to be easier to do this with than others. Let's say I have a song in A natural minor. The scale that I'm drawing my notes from would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. The 4-note chord built off the first scale degree would be an A minor 7, which has the notes A, C, E, and G in it. So if the harmony is playing an A minor 7, when I'm soloing, I can hit an A, a C, an E, or a G, and it'll sound very harmonious. Alternatively, I could play the non-chord tones from that scale over top of this chord. Those would be the B, the D, and the F. These won't sound quite as harmonious, and I might need to be a little bit more delicate with how I use them, but since they're coming from a related place, they'll still work. These are 7 of the 12 possible notes I can play and represent the more obvious choices I would use in this scenario. So the question is, how can I make a note that isn't from the chord or scale, like an A sharp or G sharp, sound good over top of this chord? If I were to simply play either of these notes and let them ring out, it's going to be quite dissonant. However, if you place these notes in places of less rhythmic emphasis and use them as passing tones, you can create a hint of tasteful friction before resolving to whatever note you play next. For example, let's take that A minor 7 again, and say I play a G, A, B, A, G on every downbeat over top of this chord. It should sound pretty harmonious, as each one of those notes is either a chord tone or comes from the scale. The offbeats of those quarter notes aren't as rhythmically emphasized, so if I put those dissonant notes there, they won't stand out, and I won't be playing them long enough for them to be overly offensive to the ear. When I insert those notes in the offbeats, it sounds like this. And here's the same concept applied in a bit of a more musical setting. You can do this type of thing with any chord, any note. This is how I personally go about using this concept. Another topic that came up somewhat regularly is the idea of developing your own sound. I feel like I may have done an entire Sensei series on this topic, but either way, the main thing I'll recommend is learn the work of your favorite musicians note for note. Take a solo or riff that you love and learn to play as much of it as you can perfectly, and use your ear as much as you can as well. By doing this, you're bringing new ideas into your musical subconscious that will come out naturally when you sit down to play your instrument. Do this as much as possible with as many different artists as possible. Having digested countless musical ideas from a diverse field of artists will give you a unique database to draw your ideas from when you sit down to play your music. Moving on, Jack Foy 103 asks how to get that country vibe into your playing. I'm going to expand this to include all genres because the concept is the same regardless. It also ties into the last topic. First of all, you want to get the vocabulary or subtle stylistic nuances of a genre into your subconscious so it comes out naturally. To do this, learn stuff note for note. Besides that, you want to listen to music from that genre both passively and actively. Passive listening is when you have it on in the background, whereas active listening is where you sit down and do nothing but focus on the music. Listen for things that stand out and ask yourself what purpose does that serve in the music, and if you particularly like it, make a note to learn that later. You should also learn the history of the music, learn where it came from, and what the pioneers of the genre listened to themselves. For modern country, you're going to want to check out Alan Jackson, then Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, Hank Williams, then bluegrass, Appalachian folk music, and the like. Isaac Mill 3 asks about studying guitar in a fun way, not just running scales. The way I see it, there are generally two aspects of practicing. The first is getting your head and ear around a new concept. For example, learning a scale. At first, you're just going to need to sit there and figure it out until you don't really need to think about it much. Once you're there, you're going to want to put the repetitions in so you don't need to think about it at all. This is pretty boring and doesn't usually require much mental engagement, so when I get to the stage, I'll usually get my reps in while watching TV or something. Now, the second part of practicing is often overlooked and is just as important. This is taking that new concept you've learned and working on applying it in a practical setting. This is also usually the fun part. You're going to want to take your scale and find a way to use it with the music that you love. That could be something like writing a piece of music using the notes from it, improvising with it over a backing track, or taking a song that you like and seeing how it fits within that scale. You've got to find a balance between these two aspects of your practice, and if you can't find a way to connect these two things, then you need to reevaluate what you're working on. Next up, we have the question, what should beginners do to get better? I truly believe that the best thing you can do for yourself is find a good teacher. How do you know if you have a good teacher? Well, here are the things that I look for. 1. Do you enjoy going to lessons? 2. Can they do things that you would like to be able to? 3. If you ask the question why, do they have the answer? 4. Can they explain themselves in a way that makes sense to you? And lastly, 5. Do you feel inspired to go practice when you finish a lesson? If you're working hard and you have this type of person guiding you, then everything else will fall into line. If you don't, then that's who you should be looking for. On top of that, it's always great to be learning from as many resources as possible, YouTube videos, books, online classes, other mentors, and what have you. And last, we have Noah Pauly 24 who asks the age-old question, how to get good tone. Tone is a bit of an ambiguous concept, and what it represents to one person can differ from what it means to another. What I think that a lot of people are talking about when they talk about tone is largely the way that a guitarist interacts with their instrument. The way I hit the string that I'm playing, the way that I mute the strings that I'm not playing, the vibrato I use, and stuff like that is going to do a lot more for my sound than the gear. However, that's not to say that the gear that I'm using doesn't play into it. So to answer your question, Noah, spend the vast majority of your time and effort working on your guitar skills, and what money you do spend on gear, try to buy quality over quantity, and spend time trying things out to figure out what works for your style of playing. There is no one universal answer or secret for what makes up good tone. Trust your ears, trust your instincts, and you'll find your sound. That about wraps it up. Let me know what you guys think about me doing this Q&A type of Sensei series now and then in the comments section. And if you want to get involved in a future one of these, make sure you follow me over on Instagram. Remember, there's a 2-month free trial to Skillshare available using the link in the description. There's a massive library of valuable content over there, from lifestyle to film animation to cooking and back again. It's worth checking out. Thank you all for watching. To catch another video in the Sensei series, hit that link up there. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and stay tuned to regular musical content. Until next time, I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.